How much does it cost to find out you don't matter? For me, it was $4,200 and a text at dawn. Dad, you're not coming. It's for my real family. Mom, Shane, and me. She'd taken my money for a vacation, then uninvited me. 25 years of raising her alone, and she chose her mother's rich new husband over the father who paid for everything. Something broke inside me that morning, but when she came home 3 weeks later, her screams could be heard down the block. I appreciate you staying with me. Before we go further, tell me in the comments, where are you and what time is it there? Knowing you're listening means everything right now. I stood in my kitchen, phone in hand, staring at those 11 words until they blurred. The coffee pot hissed behind me, burning that last inch I hadn't poured. Outside, a cardinal landed on the fence rail, bright red against the gray morning. I watched it fly off. Lucky bird. It didn't have a daughter who'd just rewritten 25 years with a text message. Change of plans, Dad. You're not coming. It's for my real family. Real family. I set the phone face down on the counter, didn't throw it. Just set it down careful-like, the way you handle something that might explode. The screen glowed through the tile for a second, then went dark. 3 weeks back, Courtney had asked me for $4,200. Same kitchen, same light through the window. She'd had that smile on the one that used to mean she'd aced a test. Now it just meant she wanted something. It's for a family vacation, Dad, she'd said. All-inclusive resort. 7 days. We really need this. Family vacation. I'd let myself imagine it. Maybe her, me, and that boyfriend she'd mentioned. A week somewhere warm. Conversations that didn't happen over text. The kind of trip that might stitch back what got torn when Pamela left. I'd transferred the money that afternoon. Didn't ask for details. She was my daughter. She said we needed it. That was enough. 10 days ago she'd left. Texted from the airport. Boarding now, can't wait. Love you. With hearts and palm trees. I'd texted back about being safe, having fun. The kind of thing fathers say. The kind of thing I'd been saying for 25 years. Ever since Pamela walked out and left me with a 15-year-old who cried herself to sleep for 3 months. The phone buzzed, face still down. I didn't flip it over. I poured the burned coffee into the sink and watched it swirl down the drain. Then I dried my hands on the dish towel Courtney had given me for Christmas white, with black letters, World's Okayest Dad. I'd laughed when I opened it. She'd laughed too. Felt real at the time. I grabbed my keys and thermos, left the phone on the counter still buzzing. Work was 12 miles east, a logistics hub off Middlebrook Pike, where I'd been routing freight for 18 years. Numbers made sense there. Shipments arrived, shipments left. Nobody sent you a text telling you that you weren't real. I made it to the parking lot on autopilot. Don't remember the drive. 1 minute I was pulling out of the driveway on Volunteer Boulevard. The next, I was sitting in my truck, in the employee lot engine running, staring at the warehouse doors. I pulled out my phone. 3 more texts from Courtney. I didn't open them. The preview lines said enough. Dad, don't be like this. It's complicated. Call me when you've calmed down. Calm down. I turned the phone over in my hand. Black case cracked screen I'd been meaning to replace. I could see my reflection in it, distorted and small. 55 years old. Gray at the temples. Lines around my eyes from squinting at manifests under fluorescent lights. I looked like a man who just found out he'd been paying for a vacation he wasn't invited to. Real family. The words sat in my chest like a stone. I knew what I had to do. But first I needed to see the truth written down. Numbers, receipts, proof. 25 years making sure my daughter had everything. Somewhere in that filing cabinet at home there was a record of it. Every tuition payment. Every car repair. Every time I'd said yes when I should have asked questions. I shut off the engine, pocketed the phone, walked inside. The guys waved. I waved back. Someone asked about the game last night. I said something. My body was there, clocking in, checking loads. But my mind was already somewhere else. Already opening that filing cabinet. Already adding up the years. By lunch, I was sitting across from Frank Bellamy. Frank's diner sat on Gay Street downtown. Red vinyl booths, AM radio playing farm reports, coffee $1.50. I'd been coming here for years. Frank knew my order. I knew when he had something to say worth hearing. He set a mug in front of me. Black, no sugar. Then he leaned against the booth dish towel over his shoulder and looked at me the way 70 years of living teaches a man to look. Like he already knew something was wrong. You look like hell, he said. Feel worse. He didn't sit. Never did during lunch. But he didn't walk away either. Want to talk about it? I wrapped both hands around the mug. My daughter asked me for $4,200 3 weeks back. Said it was for a family vacation. 7 days. I figured that meant me too. She say that, just said family. Frank wiped the table between us. Slow circles, thinking. Where is she now? Been gone 10 days. Texted this morning. Said I'm not coming. Said it's for her real family. The words felt like gravel. Her mother? Her mother's new husband. Where'd she get the money? From me. Same day she asked. He nodded once. The house you're in? Whose name is on it? Mine. Bought it after the divorce. Why, just making sure I understand. He straightened up, tucked the towel back. A man who pays for disrespect is buying more of it. You know that, right? I stared into the coffee. My reflection looked small and tired. Yeah, I said. I'm starting to. Frank walked toward the kitchen, stopped halfway and looked back. You're a good man, Stanley. Don't let her convince you otherwise. I left a 5 on the table and stepped out into the heat. The Tennessee Valley Federal Credit Union was 3 blocks over. Low brick building parking lot that smelled like hot asphalt. I'd banked there since before Courtney was born. Marjorie was at window 3, same as always. Afternoon, Mr. Granger. What can I do for you? Need to see my account history. Last 6 months. She didn't ask why, just printed it and slid the pages across. I stood under the fluorescent lights and read. The $4,200, right there. Cleared 2 weeks back. And below it, line after line, same dates every month, phone bill, car insurance, auto loan payment, all marked with Courtney's name. Not split, not shared. Just me, paying, month after month. I folded the papers and put them in my jacket. Everything okay? Marjorie asked. Yeah, just checking something. I walked to my truck and sat with the windows down. Listened to the traffic on Kingston Pike. A horn honked somewhere. People living regular lives where their daughters didn't text them from vacations they'd paid for but weren't welcome at. I pulled out my phone, opened the browser, typed Courtney's name and Instagram. I'd never done this before. Never felt the need. Figured if she wanted me to know something she'd tell me. Figured trust meant not checking up on her online. I'd figured wrong about a lot of things. I drove home and did something I'd never done. I looked at my daughter's social media. Courtney's Instagram told me everything I needed to know. I sat at the kitchen table, scrolling through photos I'd never bothered to study before. Courtney and Pamela at a downtown steakhouse, wine glasses, raised smiling like they'd won something. Shane lounged in the background, pleased with himself. The caption read, My People. I kept scrolling, shopping bags from stores I'd never heard of. Courtney and Pamela grinning, finally complete. Another post, the 3 of them at a resort pool, sunset behind their drinks. Real family vibes. Then I checked the dates. Every photo was posted before she asked me for the money, weeks before. While she sat in this same kitchen asking for $4,200 for a family vacation, she was already living one. With her real family, without me. She'd already decided where I fit. I set the phone face down. My hands weren't shaking with anger anymore. What I felt was colder, clearer, like waking up after years of sleep. I walked to the spare room. The olive green filing cabinet waited in the corner, forgotten for a decade. When I opened the top drawer, it screeched loud enough to make me flinch. Inside were folders all labeled, every receipt, every statement. 18 years routing freight had trained me well. You document everything. You make sure the numbers add up. University of Tennessee, 4 years of tuition receipts. Fall, spring, summer catch-up classes. $52,000 paid semester by semester because her mother was too busy starting over. Next, the car title. A used 2016 Honda CR-V bought in Maryville for $9,200. Courtney cried when I handed her the keys. Told me I was the best dad in the world. I believed her. Insurance statements followed. 3 full years, all in her name, all paid by me. Then my notebook, a cheap spiral from Walmart. I'd tracked her allowance since graduation. $650 every month. Gas, groceries, nights out. I flipped through the pages and did the math. $31,200. She'd lived here rent-free the entire time. 6 years after college. If I'd charged even $900 a month, that was another $64,000 I never asked for. I carried everything to the kitchen table and laid it out in rows. Tuition, car, insurance, allowance, free housing, phone bills since she was 16, the vacation money from 3 weeks ago. I opened a blank page and started adding. My handwriting was sharp numbers stacking like evidence. $178,000, give or take. I leaned back and looked at the paper spread before me. Years of love turned into columns and totals. I thought I was being a good father. Thought if I kept giving, she'd understand. She did understand. She knew exactly how much I'd give, and she took all of it. The house stayed quiet, just receipts and my breathing. Somewhere a dog barked, a car door slammed. Life moved on. I sat there until the sky lightened, thinking about birthdays, school plays, scraped knees, and promises I meant to keep. I remembered every excuse I'd made for her, every warning I'd ignored, every time I chose peace over truth. The clarity hurt, but it also steadied me because for the first time I wasn't guessing anymore. I was done guessing, and I accepted responsibility for what came next without fear or doubt. I didn't sleep that night. By morning, I knew exactly what I was going to do. The next morning, Roger Whitman's office smelled like old coffee and new possibilities. I'd found his name in the phone book the night before. Family law, 30 years experience. Called at 7 a.m., got an appointment for 9. The stairs to the third floor made my knees complain. 55 years of loading docks and ladders. By the time I reached the frosted glass door with his name on it, I was breathing harder than I wanted to admit. The office looked like a man who worked more than he organized. Papers stacked on the desk file boxes against the wall, framed degrees, hanging slightly crooked. Roger sat behind the desk in shirt sleeves, reading glasses on maybe 45 and going gray. He stood when I walked in, shook my hand. "Mr. Granger, have a seat." The chair creaked when I sat. "You said this was about property," he said. "Tell me what's going on." I told him. Not everything, just enough. My daughter, the money, the text, the house. He listened without interrupting. When I finished, he pulled a legal pad toward him. "The house. Whose name is on the deed?" "Mine. Bought it after the divorce." "Your ex-wife's name on the paperwork?" "No." "Your daughter's?" "No, she just lives there." He wrote something down. "How old is she?" 25. "She pay rent?" "No." He set the pen down. "Mr. Granger, Tennessee is not a community property state. That house is yours. Period. Your name's the only one on that deed. You can do whatever you want with it. What about Courtney? She lives there. She's an adult resident, not an owner. You want her out 30 days written notice. That's the law." I looked at my hands. Rough hands. Working hands. Hands that had signed permission slips and tuition checks and held a baby girl who used to think I hung the moon. "She's my daughter," I said. Roger took off his glasses. When he looked at me again, his voice was softer. "And she chose to exclude you from her family. You're not punishing her. You're choosing yourself." He opened a drawer, pulled out a business card, slid it across. "Brenda Kozlowski, best realtor in Knoxville. Tell her I sent you." I picked up the card. Cream-colored, simple. Phone number and address. "You don't have to do anything," Roger said. "But if you decide you've had enough of paying for disrespect, she'll help, and I'll handle the paperwork." I stood, shook his hand. "What do I owe you?" "First consultation's free. You need me later, we'll talk numbers." He walked me to the door. "Stanley, you're not the bad guy here. Don't let anyone tell you different." The stairs down felt longer than the stairs up. Not because of my knees, because every step was taking me towards something I couldn't take back. Outside, the heat was already rising. I sat in my truck and turned the card over in my hands. Brenda Kozlowski, residential and commercial real estate. I thought about Courtney's bedroom, walls I'd painted, the desk where she'd done homework, the window looking over the backyard where I'd taught her to throw a softball. I thought about real family, about $4,200, about those Instagram posts dated weeks before she'd even asked. I sat there for 20 minutes, engine off, windows down, that card in my hand getting damp from sweat or nerves or both. Then I made a choice I couldn't undo. 2 days later, Brenda Kozlowski stood in my doorway, iPad tucked against her arm. She drove a Subaru War business. Casual looked maybe 38, with the calm efficiency of someone who'd done this 1,000 times. She shook my hand firmly and stepped inside without waiting. "Let's take a look," she said. I followed her through the house, the kitchen first. She stood exactly where I'd been standing when the text came 4 days ago. She opened cabinets, ran her hand along the counter, nodded to herself. "Good bones," she said. "Minor updates, but solid." We moved to the living room. That's where she stopped. The photo wall. I'd forgotten it was there. You stop seeing things you live with every day. Courtney at 6, gap-toothed, holding a soccer trophy bigger than her head. Courtney at 12, with braces standing between me and Pamela, back when we still pretended. Courtney at 16 in a blue prom dress. Courtney at 18, cap and gown, my arm around her shoulders, both of us smiling, like we'd won something. Brenda lifted the iPad and took photos. She didn't comment. I paused at the graduation picture. Remembered how she'd hugged me so hard I could barely breathe. Told me I was the reason she'd made it. I believed her. Second thoughts, Brenda asked quietly. No, I said, just remembering when those were real. She nodded and kept moving. Courtney's bedroom came next. I opened the door. I hadn't been inside for months. Band posters still hung on the walls. Soccer trophies lined the shelf. The desk where she'd done homework while I cooked dinner downstairs. The window overlooking the backyard where I'd taught her to throw a softball at 8. Brenda measured photograph typed notes. Does she know you're selling? She asked. Not yet. When's she back? 11 days. That made her look up. That's extremely tight. Most sellers want 30 to 45 days. You sure about the timeline? I'm sure. She studied my face, then nodded. All right, I'll price it competitively. Volunteer Boulevard sells fast. We list tonight. My phone buzzed. Courtney's name. I declined the call and slipped the phone away. Brenda didn't react. We walked back to the front door. On the porch, she looked down the street. Kids on bikes. A lawnmower humming. A normal Thursday afternoon. You doing okay? She asked. Getting there. I've been doing this 16 years, she said. People sell for every reason imaginable. Some hurt more than others. If you need to talk, I'm here. If you want me to just sell the house and stay quiet, I can do that too. I need you to sell the house. She smiled small, but genuine. Then I'll do exactly that. Photos tonight, calls tomorrow. She headed to her Subaru, then turned back. Mr. Granger, whatever happened here, this is your house. Your name's on the deed. Your choice. What happens next? I watched her drive away. Inside the house felt different. Quieter. Like it already knew it wasn't mine anymore. Like it was preparing to leave before I was. My phone rang again. Courtney. I set it on the counter and watched the screen light up then fade. It rang twice more before dinner. I ignored every call. That night she called again and again. I turned the phone face down on the nightstand and listened to it vibrate against the wood, like a trapped insect searching for a way out. The Fletchers made an offer in 4 days. Brenda called Monday morning, young couple, both high school teachers, expecting twins. First house. They love it. Full asking price. I met them that afternoon. Ryan and Nicole Fletcher, late 20s. He taught history. She taught English. They walked through the house, holding hands, pointing, already planning. In what used to be Courtney's room, they talked about paint colors and cribs. Voices low and hopeful. They looked at me like I was giving them something precious. I suppose I was. The inspection happened Tuesday. Quick and clean. The house was solid. I'd kept it that way. New roof 3 years back. Furnace serviced every fall. No surprises. Wednesday afternoon, Roger called. The Fletchers have cash, he said. No mortgage contingency. We could close in 10 days if you push it. 10 days. It's tight. Most sellers want 30, 45. But you said she's back in a week. I looked at the calendar on the kitchen wall. Courtney had circled her departure date and drawn a little airplane beside it. 3 weeks ago. Let's do it, I said. You sure? I'm sure. Closing was set for Thursday, 11 days from the text. 1 day before Courtney came home. I started packing her things that night, not throwing them out, not being cruel, just removing them. Her clothes went into boxes, folded carefully. Posters came off the walls without tearing. Trophies were wrapped in newspaper. Photos from her desk, books from her shelf. The stuffed animal she'd had since she was 4, the one she'd never forgive me for losing. I labeled everything clearly. Courtney's bedroom, Courtney's closet, Courtney's books. I stacked the boxes in the garage in neat rows. On top I left a note, typed, printed, taped down. Storage Unit 2250, Sutherland Avenue, Unit 47. Rent prepaid 3 months, code 5823, Dad. Thursday came. I drove to the title company on West Clinch Avenue. Signed papers, initialed pages. The Fletchers sat across from me, nervous and excited. When it was done, we stood and shook hands. Thank you, Ryan said. Our kids are going to grow up here. I saw myself in him, 15 years younger, still believing permanence was guaranteed. I hope they know how lucky they are, I said. I handed over the keys. Nicole's eyes filled. Ryan put his arm around her. I walked out and didn't look back. The rental was 12 miles east. 1 bedroom off Nayland Drive, close enough to the river that I could walk to Suttree Landing Park in 5 minutes. $850 a month. Small. Quiet. Empty in a way that felt like relief. I moved in with 1 truckload. clothes, a few photos Courtney as a baby at 6 before she decided I wasn't real enough, the coffee maker, my fishing rod, a chair, a table. I sat on that folding chair and looked out at the river. The water moved slow and dark. Ducks floated near the bank. Somewhere downstream, a heron called. For the first time in 25 years, I wasn't waiting for someone to need something. Wasn't listening for the phone. Wasn't checking my account to see what had been taken. She kept calling. I kept the phone off. Friday morning, I woke early. Made coffee. Sat on the balcony and watched the sun rise over the water. The air smelled like river and cut grass. A fisherman drifted past in a small boat line in the water in no hurry. My phone sat on the table. Silent. I turned it on at dawn just to check the time. At 9:43, a text arrived. Brenda. 3 words. They're home now. I was sitting by the river when my phone started blowing up. It was 4:23 on a Friday afternoon. I know because I'd just checked the time, thinking about whether to stay for the sunset or head back to the rental. The fishing had been slow. Didn't matter. I wasn't really there to catch anything. Just needed to watch the water move and remember how to breathe without waiting for someone to need something. The phone lit up on the dock next to me. Text from Brenda. 3 words. They're home now. I read it, set the phone back down, picked up my rod and cast the line again. Watched the lure hit the water 30 feet out, sink disappear. The Tennessee River didn't care what was happening on Volunteer Boulevard. Neither did I. Not yet. 30 minutes passed. The phone stayed silent. I'd put it on mute after Brenda's text. When I finally checked, the screen was full of missed calls. 7 from Courtney. 3 from a number I didn't recognize, probably Pamela. I waited another 5 minutes. Then I called back. Courtney answered on the first ring. "What did you do?" She was screaming. Actually screaming. "Dad, we can't get in." "There's people in our house." I kept my voice level, quiet. "I sold it." You can't do that?" "This is my home." "It was my house, Courtney. You made it very clear I wasn't your family." Her voice cracked. I didn't mean." "Yes, you did. My real family. I read it every morning for 10 days. Pamela's voice cut in. Speakerphone. Background noise. "Stanley, this is illegal. We're calling the police right now." I leaned back against the dock post, watched a duck paddle past. "Go ahead, Pamela. Everything's in order. Deed's in my name. Always was." Courtney again sobbing now. "Where are my things? My clothes? My photos?" "Storage unit. 2250 Sutherland Avenue, Unit 47. Rent's paid for 3 months. Code's on the note I left in the garage." Shane's voice in the background, trying to sound tough. "Hey, buddy, let me talk to this guy." "I'm hanging up now, Courtney." I kept my tone even, calm. "When you're ready to talk without an audience, you know where to find me." I ended the call before she could answer. Set the phone back down. Picked up the rod, checked the bait, cast again. The sun was starting to drop behind the mountains. The sky went orange, then pink. A heron landed on the opposite bank, stood still, as a photograph watching the shallows. 20 minutes later, my phone buzzed with a text. Brenda again. "Deputies came. Checked the deed. Confirmed everything's legal. They left upset, but empty-handed. Ryan and Nicole are shaken but okay." I explained the situation. I typed back, "Thank them for their patience. This wasn't about them." I sat there until the light faded, until the river turned from brown to black, until the first stars showed up and the temperature dropped, and the mosquitoes started finding me. My thermos was still half full. The coffee had gone lukewarm, but I drank it anyway. Tasted like metal in old grounds. Tasted like freedom. I thought about Courtney standing in front of that house. Thought about her face when she realized the key wouldn't work. Thought about Pamela's voice getting shrill. Shane trying to act like he mattered. I didn't feel good about it, but I didn't feel bad either. I felt like a man who'd finally stopped paying for something he couldn't afford. 3 days later, Roger called. Pamela had filed a complaint. 2 weeks later, Knox County Chancery Court smelled like floor wax and old decisions. I got there 20 minutes early. Sat on the bench outside the courtroom with Roger, next to me, manila folder on his lap, full of papers that told a story I already knew by heart. Pamela showed up 10 minutes before the hearing. Courtney beside her. Shane trailing behind in an expensive suit that probably came from the same place as his leased Mercedes somewhere that let you look rich without being it. Shane tried to make eye contact. Tried that thing men do when they want to establish dominance. I looked past him at the bulletin board on the wall. Notice about jury duty. Something about parking violations. The bailiff called us in. "Prescott versus Granger. Property dispute. The courtroom was smaller than I expected. Wood paneling, high ceilings. Judge Martha Kincaid, already at the bench, 60-something with reading glasses, and a face that had seen this exact kind of mess 1,000 times before. Pamela's lawyer stood up first, young guy, nervous. Started talking about constructive abandonment, emotional distress. How I'd sold the house without warning, how Courtney had lived there her whole adult life. Roger waited until he was done. Then he stood. Didn't rush. Just stood there quiet for a second like he was thinking about the weather. Your Honor, he said. May I present the deed? He slid it across to the judge. She picked it up. Read it. Set it down. The property at 847 Volunteer Boulevard, she said. Yes, Your Honor. Sole ownership. Mr. Granger's name only. Purchased post-divorce with his own funds. No co-ownership. No lien. She looked at Pamela's lawyer. Counselor is your client's name on this deed. No, Your Honor, but... Then your client has no standing here. Mr. Granger had every legal right to sell his property. Shane stood up. Actually stood up like he thought anyone cared what he had to say. Your Honor, I think if we could just... The judge's voice went sharp. Sit down, Mr. Prescott. You have no standing in this case whatsoever. You are not a party to this dispute. Shane sat. His face went red. Nobody looked at him. Courtney leaned over and whispered something urgent to the lawyer. Your Honor, what about the defendant's belongings? They were removed without... Roger didn't even wait for him to finish. Your Honor, my client carefully packed every item belonging to Ms. Granger, stored them in a climate-controlled unit, prepaid rent for 3 months, left a detailed note with the address and access code. Mr. Granger was more than fair. The judge looked at the folder Roger had given her, took her time going through it. Receipts, bank transfers, tuition payments, insurance statements, the whole history of me trying to be enough. She looked up at Pamela. Ms. Prescott, your daughter, lived rent-free in Mr. Granger's home as an adult. He supported her financially for over a decade. He sold his own property. This court finds no wrongdoing here. She picked up the gavel. Case dismissed. The sound echoed off the wood paneling. Final. Done. Outside on the courthouse steps, Pamela stormed off with Shane following. Courtney stayed behind. Stood there for a minute like she was trying to figure out which way to go. Then she walked over to me, alone. I didn't know you'd really... She stopped, started again. I didn't think you'd actually... I looked at her, my daughter, 25 years old, still expecting me to make it easier for her. You knew enough, Courtney. I said, not mean, just true. You knew enough. I turned and walked down the steps. Didn't look back. Didn't wait to see if she'd follow or call after me or finally understand. For the first time in 25 years, the weight I'd carried was gone. 6 weeks after the hearing, I got a text from Courtney. Can we talk? I didn't answer right away. I'd learned the value of waiting, of letting silence do what arguments never could. 2 days later, I replied, River, Saturday, 9 a.m. She arrived on time. That was new. I was already sitting on my usual bench near Suttree Landing, the one I claimed most mornings since moving into the apartment. The Tennessee River slid past slow and steady, carrying everything with it, whether it wanted to go or not. Courtney sat beside me, hands folded in her lap, like she needed permission to exist. I didn't know, she said at last. About the money? About how much you... Her voice cracked. Mom said you were fine, that you didn't need help, that you wanted me to be happy. I did want that, I said, but you sold the house. I did. She wiped her eyes. The river didn't pause. After a moment, she said, Shane's gone. The FBI came. Something about the MLM being a pyramid scheme. Mom's staying with her sister in Memphis. I didn't respond. There was nothing left to say about Shane Prescott. I got a job, Courtney said. Reception at a dentist's office on Kingston Pike. It's not much, but it's mine. I looked at her then. Really looked. She wasn't a child anymore. Maybe she never had been. Just someone trying to stand on ground that had shifted without warning. That's good, I said. That's a start. She nodded. We sat quietly watching a kayaker fight upstream against the current. Courtney asked if she could text me sometimes. I said yes. She asked if we could meet again here by the river. I said maybe, someday, when she'd learned the difference between showing up and staying. She left first. I stayed, finished my coffee, watched the light move across the water. 2 months later, the Fletchers sent a photo. Twin girls wrapped in matching pink blankets. Ryan grinning like he'd won everything. Nicole exhausted and radiant. The subject line read, Home. I printed it, and put it on my refrigerator, right beside the receipt from the storage unit, 3 months prepaid, all of Courtney's things safe, dry, and waiting whenever she chose to claim them. Brenda called a few weeks later. She'd heard Shane's entire organization had collapsed. 43 people lost money. The news ran a story. Someone spray-painted liar across the hood of his leased BMW. Thought you'd want to know, she said. Thanks, Brenda. You doing okay, Stanley? Yeah, I said, and I meant it. Late one Saturday morning, another text came from Courtney. A photo this time, her and Scrub's name tag pinned to her chest, standing outside the dentist's office. The caption read, "First week down. Thank you for not giving up on me, even when I gave up on you." I didn't reply, not out of anger, not from indifference. Some things didn't need words. Some things needed time. That afternoon, I walked to the river. The water was low, the current gentle, the air thick with summer mud and cut grass. I sat on my bench and thought about 25 years. The house, the Honda, tuition payments, all the quiet ways I'd tried to build a future for someone who never knew the cost. And I understood something. I wasn't bitter. I wasn't broken. I was free. Love without respect is just labor, and I'd clocked out. The river kept moving. So did I. Looking back, I spent 25 years trying to buy love with sacrifice. Don't be like me. Don't mistake generosity for respect. I gave Courtney everything: tuition, car allowance, a roof, but never taught her the cost. I never made her understand that family isn't built on money. It's built on mutual respect. The lesson I learned the hard way: love without boundaries isn't love, it's just labor. When people treat you like a wallet instead of a father, you're not helping them. You're teaching them you're disposable. God gave me strength when I had nothing left. God gave me clarity when I wanted to crumble. And God gave me peace when I finally chose myself. If you're overlooked, taken for granted, dismissed, know this: walking away isn't cruelty, it's self-respect. This grandpa story might sound harsh, but it's a true story I wish I'd heard 25 years ago. Grandpa stories like mine aren't told to make you bitter, they're told so you don't carry the same weight. This true story taught me that dignity doesn't shout. Justice doesn't storm in. Sometimes it just signs the papers and keeps moving. That's what Grandpa stories pass down: true story wisdom earned through pain. If this hit home, don't keep it to yourself. Drop a comment: have you ever felt invisible in your own family? Share this with someone who needs it. Subscribe for more real stories about finding strength when life tests you. You're not alone.